The first thing Alex learned about silence was that it could scream. It screamed at 4:17 in the morning when the phone vibrated on the kitchen table and stopped after exactly 3 seconds. It screamed in the narrow gap between the refrigerator hum and the ticking clock on the wall. It screamed loudest when he noticed that the caller had not left a voicemail, because the hospital never left voicemails. He did not wake his daughter. He moved through the apartment barefoot, stepping around toys arranged in deliberate patterns on the floor. Cities she built at night and forgot by morning. He stood by the window while the sky outside stayed stubbornly dark, then finally allowed himself to look at the phone again. Missed call. Unknown number. The silence pressed against his chest until breathing felt like an agreement he had not signed. Alex washed his hands before touching anything else. He did not know why. Later he would tell himself it was habit, something learned during the long months of antiseptic smells and quiet corridors. But the truth was simpler. His hands were shaking, and water gave them something to do. When he returned to the kitchen, the phone rang again. This time he answered. The voice on the other end spoke his name carefully, as if testing whether it still belonged to him. There was an apology delivered too early, before any information, which told him everything. By the time the voice explained what had happened, Alex was already nodding, already thanking the stranger for calling, already saying yes to questions he did not remember being asked. After the call ended, he sat down at the table and stared at the wood grain until it began to look like moving water. He waited for the world to change shape. It did not. The refrigerator continued its quiet labor. The clock kept time for no one in particular. In the bedroom, his daughter Mira slept with one arm thrown above her head, her mouth slightly open, her hair a dark spill across the pillow. She was 7 years old and believed fiercely in patterns. Every night, before sleeping, she lined up her shoes under the bed, adjusted the lamp to the same angle, and asked the same question. "Are you going to be here when I wake up?" Alex stood in the doorway and watched her breathe. "Yes," he whispered, though she could not hear him. "I am here." By sunrise, the apartment was full of people. Alex's sister arrived first, breathless and already crying. Then neighbors who brought food they did not know how to offer. Then a woman from the hospital who spoke gently and avoided looking at Mira. Words like accident and sudden and unavoidable moved through the rooms like furniture being rearranged without permission. Mira did not cry. She sat on the couch with her knees put to her chest, watching the adults as if they were actors who had forgotten their lines. When Alex finally knelt in front of her and took her hands, she studied his face with the seriousness of a child trying to solve a difficult puzzle. "Is Mom late?" Alex opened his mouth and closed it again. He felt the moment stretch, thin and dangerous. He chose his words the way one chooses a path through broken glass. "Mom is not coming back," he said. Mira considered this. "Did she get lost?" "No." "Is she hurt?" Alex nodded, then shook his head, then stopped moving entirely. He did not trust his body to tell the truth. Mira leaned forward and pressed her forehead against his chest. Her voice was small but precise. "Okay," she said. "Then you have to stay." Alex held her and felt something inside him shift. Not break, but lock into place. A mechanism engaged. A promise made without language. That was the moment he became a single father, though no one announced it. The days that followed blurred together, but nights became sharper. Mira stopped asking if he would be there in the morning. Instead, she began checking. She would wake at irregular hours and walk quietly into the living room, standing just close enough to see him breathing on the couch where he had fallen asleep. Sometimes Alex would open his eyes and see her watching him, her face calm and unreadable. "Go back to bed," he would whisper. "Just checking," she would reply, then return to her room without another word. Alex adjusted his life with the precision of someone building a bridge while standing on it. He learned to cook food Mira would eat, to braid hair passably well, to read bedtime stories without his voice shaking. He learned the school schedule, the names of her friends, the exact way she liked her cereal arranged in the bowl. What he did not learn was how to sleep. At night, when the apartment settled into its familiar noises, Alex lay awake listening for sounds that did not belong. He replayed moments from the past, searching for warnings he might have missed. He imagined futures that required him to be better than he was. One night, as rain traced thin lines down the window, Mira appeared beside his bed. "I had a dream," she said. Alex sat up immediately. "What kind?" "The quiet kind." She climbed onto the bed and carrot against his side. After a moment, she spoke again. "In the dream, the mom was behind a wall. I could hear her, but I could not see her. You were there too, but you were on the other side with me. You were holding the wall so it would not fall." Alex closed his eyes. "That's a strange dream," he said. Mira nodded. Then she added something that made his breath catch. "When I woke up, I could not hear her anymore, but the wall was still there." Alex stared at the ceiling until the rain stopped. From that night on, Mira began building walls. At first they were small, made of books or pillows, arranged carefully in corners of the apartment. She did not explain them, and Alex did not ask. He stepped around them, careful not to disturb their balance. Then the walls grew. Cardboard boxes appeared, scavenged from neighbors and grocery stores. Mira stacked them with intent, reinforcing weak points with tape, creating passages just wide enough for a child to slip through. She spent hours inside her constructions, emerging only for meals and school. Alex told himself it was normal. Children processed grief in strange ways. Structures were safe. Walls kept things out. One evening, while helping Mira with her homework, he noticed something written inside one of the boxes. A careful list, drawn in pencil. Rules. Do not knock. Do not answer voices. Check the light before sleeping. Alex felt a chill that had nothing to do with the temperature. "Mira," he said, keeping his tone even. "What is this?" She glanced at the wall, then at him. "They help me remember," she said. "Remember what?" She hesitated, then smiled in a way that did not reach her eyes. "That you're still here." Alex reached out and pulled her close. He told himself that fear was a poor foundation for understanding. He told himself many things. That night, after Mira fell asleep, Alex walked through the apartment, touching the walls she had built, feeling their weight and fragility. He imagined them growing higher, thicker, until the rooms disappeared entirely. He imagined what might happen if one of them fell. In the silence that followed, something shifted again, quietly, patiently, as if waiting for him to notice. And somewhere in the apartment, unseen, a light turned itself on. The light was on in the hallway bathroom. Alex was certain of it because he stood in the doorway for a full minute, watching it glow against the darkened apartment, listening for movement that did not come. The switch was old, stiff. the kind that resisted being flipped by accident. Mira never used that bathroom at night. She was afraid of the mirror. Alex turned the light off and stood there longer than necessary, waiting for the uneasy feeling to pass. It did not. It settled into him instead, a quiet certainty that something had changed without asking permission. In the morning, Mira was already awake, sitting at the kitchen table with her cereal untouched. She was drawing. "What are you making?" Alex asked. "A map," she said without looking up. "Of what?" She considered the question carefully. "Of safe places." Alex leaned closer. The paper was filled with lines and shapes that resembled the apartment, but not quite. Some rooms were larger than they should be. Others were missing entirely. Small symbols marked certain areas, repeated with careful consistency. "What do the circles mean?" "Lights," Mira said. "Places where the light stays on." Alex straightened slowly. The days that followed developed a rhythm that felt artificial, like a machine set slightly out of alignment. Small things continued to happen. Objects were moved and not remembered being moved. Doors were found closed that Alex was sure he had left open. Once, he heard footsteps in the hallway long after Mira had gone to bed. When he checked on her, she was awake, eyes open in the dark. "Did you hear that?" she asked. "Hear what?" She smiled faintly. "Okay," she said, and turned towards the wall she had built around her bed. At school, Mira's teacher asked Alex if everything was all right at home. Mira had stopped participating in group activities. She preferred to sit near the windows. When asked why, she said the light there was better. At night, Alex began sleeping in pieces. He dreamed of walls growing inward, rooms shrinking, air thinning. He dreamed of his wife standing just out of sight, her voice familiar and distorted, calling his name through something thick and heavy. One evening, while putting away laundry, Alex noticed a new wall in the living room. This one was different, taller, reinforced with furniture. A narrow opening faced the window. Mira stood inside it, holding a flashlight. "What is this?" Alex asked, unable to keep the edge from his voice. She flinched. "You are not supposed to see it yet." "See what?" She pointed the flashlight at the far corner, where the wall met the floor. "There is a sound there," she said. "It's quieter during the day." Alex crouched and listened. At first, there was nothing. Then, beneath the usual sounds of the building, he heard it. A low vibration, almost like breathing through a closed door. Mira touched his arm. "It knows you're here now," she said. Alex stood too quickly. That night, he searched the apartment while Mira slept. He pulled apart walls, collapsed boxes, moved furniture. The sound disappeared when he moved toward it, then returned elsewhere, as if avoiding him. At 3 a.m, he stood in the hallway, exhausted and shaking, surrounded by half-dismantled constructions. He felt ridiculous, afraid of shadows and sounds in old pipes, afraid of his daughter's imagination. Then he heard his name. It came from behind the remaining wall in Mira's room. Alex froze. The voice was soft, familiar. "Wrong." "Alex," it said. He did not answer. The wall shifted, just slightly. A pressure from the other side. Alex stepped back and hit the light switch. The room flooded with brightness. The wall collapsed outward, boxes falling apart, tape tearing. There was nothing behind it. No one. Mira sat up in bed, blinking. "You broke it," she said calmly. Alex sank to the floor. The next morning, Mira did not go to school. She sat on the couch, watching the hallway with quiet intensity. "It's louder now," she said. Alex packed a bag. They left the apartment before noon. They stayed with Alex's sister for 3 nights. Nothing happened there. No lights turned on by themselves. No sounds in the walls. Mira slept through the night for the first time in weeks. Alex began to believe he had imagined it all. On the 4th night, Mira woke him. "It followed us," she said. Alex felt something cold settle in his stomach. "Where?" She pointed at the ceiling. "It does not like new places. It hides better." Alex did not sleep after that. He made calls. Therapists, child psychologists, grief counselors. He explained carefully, omitting the parts that made him sound unhinged. They spoke of trauma and projection, and the ways children express loss. One of them asked if Mira ever talked about her mother as if she were still present. Alex hesitated. "Sometimes," he said. "That's normal," the woman replied. "Children do not always understand permanence." That night, Mira asked a question she had not asked in months. "Are you going to be here when I wake up?" Alex did not answer immediately. "Yes," he said finally. Mira studied his face for a long time. "You should not promise things like that anymore," she said. On the 5th night, Alex woke to the sound of the wall being rebuilt, cardboard sliding, tape tearing, furniture shifting. He rushed into Mira's room. She stood in the center, working quickly, methodically. "Stop," Alex said. She looked at him with something close to pity. "If I do not finish, it will come through." "Come through? What? The wall?" Alex grabbed her shoulders. "There is nothing there," he said. She met his eyes. "That's what it wants you to think." The lights flickered. From inside the wall, something pressed back. Alex pulled Mira toward him as the cardboard bowed inward. A sound filled the room. Deeper now, closer. Not a voice, but something that shaped itself like one. "Alex," it said again. "Let me help." Alex screamed. The lights went out. In the dark, Mira's voice was calm. "Do not listen," she said. "It sounds like her, but it is not." Alex held his daughter as the wall finally gave way, collapsing into the room, and something stepped through. It did not have a shape the way Alex expected. There were no limbs, no face, no features that could be named without lying. It occupied space the way a shadow does when it is cast by nothing visible, dense and insistent, pushing the air aside. The darkness around it felt thicker, as if the room had learned a new way to be empty. Mira did not scream. Alex did. He fumbled for the lamp, knocking it over, the bulb shattering uselessly against the floor. The thing moved closer, not stepping, not gliding, but simply being nearer than it had been a moment before. Alex felt pressure in his ears, behind his eyes. His wife's voice brushed against his thoughts, familiar and intimate, saying things only she would know, apologies, private jokes, a memory of her hand on his arm during a long wait in a hospital corridor years ago. He almost answered. Mira pressed her face into his chest. "Do not listen," she repeated. It learns faster when you listen. Alex squeezed his eyes shut and shouted her name, his daughter's name, anchoring himself to the sound of it. The pressure shifted. The thing recoiled slightly, as if irritated. Light flared. The hallway light snapped back on without warning, harsh and unforgiving.